I stood frozen in the doorway of my family home, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. I thought I knew what betrayal felt like, but nothing could have prepared me for this. The room smelled of lavender and lies, the garden outside transformed into a fairy tale wedding wonderland for her, my sister, Vicky. The sister who stole my fiancé, Tom. The sister whose wedding drama was about to unravel a web of family secrets I never saw coming. But this wasn't just the end of their lies. It was the beginning of my revenge and resilience. I have to take back my power, and nothing would stop me now. My name is Becky. I'm 32 years old. I loved sunshine yellow. It made me happy, like a field of dandelions on a summer day. My apartment was drenched in it, yellow curtains, a yellow rug, even a little yellow teapot that whistled a merry tune. But the real sunshine in my life was Tom, my fiancé. Tom was like a warm hug on a chilly day. He always knew how to make me laugh, even when I was feeling down. We met in college, both studying to be teachers. We bonded over our love of books and our dreams of helping children learn. Now, 5 years later, we were planning our wedding. My family was thrilled. My parents adored Tom, and my younger sister, Vicky, always said we were the perfect couple. Our family home, a big, rambling house with a garden bursting with flowers, buzzed with excitement. I could already picture my wedding day, walking down the aisle, Tom waiting for me at the end, surrounded by the people we loved. Tom and I spent hours poring over wedding magazines, choosing flowers, and tasting cakes. My mom helped me pick out a beautiful, flowing white dress that made me feel like a princess. Vicky was my maid of honor, promising to plan the best bachelorette party ever. Everything felt perfect, like a dream come true. One sunny Saturday, Tom, Vicky, and I went to the park for a picnic. We laughed, played frisbee, and ate sandwiches under a big oak tree. Tom gave me a small, heart-shaped locket with our initials engraved on it. I felt so happy, so loved, that I thought my heart might burst. Little did I know, the sunshine was about to be replaced by a storm cloud named Vicky. The happy family moments were about to be ripped apart, leaving me heartbroken and confused. The perfect picture I'd painted in my mind was about to shatter into a million pieces, leaving me to pick up the fragments and try to put them back together. And the yellow sunshine would seem like a distant memory. The first crack appeared subtly. I started noticing Tom and Vicky spending a lot of time together, whispering and laughing. At first, I didn't think much of it. They were like siblings, after all. But then, I started catching them in stolen glances, a lingering touch on the arm, something that felt different. One evening, I was working late grading papers. Tom had said he was going to the movies with a friend. When I got home, I found Vicky sitting in the living room, bathed in the soft glow of the television. "Hey," I said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Vicky jumped, startled. "Oh, hey. Just couldn't sleep. Thought I'd watch a movie." "Where's Tom?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. Vicky hesitated. He said he had to run an errand. Something about work." I frowned. That didn't sound right. I knew Tom's work schedule, and he rarely had evening errands. As Vicky spoke, I noticed a small, almost imperceptible smudge of lipstick on her cheek. It was the same shade I wore, a rosy pink I knew Vicky didn't own. The next day, I decided to surprise Tom at his school. I brought him his favorite lunch, a turkey sandwich with extra pickles. But when I arrived, his classroom was empty. His teaching partner told me he had called in sick. Confused, I drove home. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Tom's car parked in front of my house. That was odd. I hadn't told him I was coming home early. My heart started to race as I walked toward the front door. I could hear voices inside, muffled but distinct. One was Tom's. The other was Vicky's. Hesitantly, I placed my hand on the doorknob and pushed it open. What I saw inside made my world stop spinning. Tom and Vicky were standing in the living room, close together, holding hands. Vicky was crying, and Tom was stroking her hair. "I can't help it," Tom, Vicky sobbed. I love you. Tom looked up, his face pale with shock. He saw me standing in the doorway, my face a mask of disbelief. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The air in the room crackled with tension. The happy picture I had painted in my mind, the perfect wedding, the loving family, shattered into a million pieces, leaving me standing there, heartbroken and betrayed. The sunshine yellow of my apartment seemed to mock me, a cruel reminder of the happiness I had lost. I stumbled backward, knocking over a vase of flowers. The water spilled onto the floor, mirroring the tears that were now streaming down my face. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. The betrayal was a punch to the gut, a sharp, agonizing pain that stole my breath away. Becky, wait! Tom cried, taking a step toward me. But I couldn't bear to look at him, at the man I thought I knew, the man I was going to marry. I turned and ran, blindly, out of the house and into the street. I didn't know where I was going, didn't care. All I knew was that I had to get away, away from the lies, away from the pain, away from the people who had betrayed me. I ended up at the park, the same park where we had had the picnic, the park where Tom had given me the heart-shaped locket. I sank onto a bench under the big oak tree, the locket clutched tightly in my hand. The tears kept coming, hot and heavy, blurring my vision. I felt like I was drowning, lost in a sea of sorrow. How could they do this to me? How could Tom, the man I loved, betray me in such a cruel way? And Vicky, my own sister, the person who was supposed to be my best friend, my confidant? I remembered all the times Vicky had told me how lucky I was to have Tom, how perfect we were together. Was it all a lie? Had Vicky been secretly wanting Tom all along? The thought made my stomach churn. I felt sick, disgusted, betrayed beyond words. I stayed at the park for hours, watching the sunset, the sky turning from a brilliant blue to a deep, somber purple. As darkness fell, a cold wind swept through the park, chilling me to the bone. I finally stood up, my legs stiff and aching. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. I had to go home, had to face the music, had to figure out what to do next. But as I walked out of the park, I knew one thing for sure, my life would never be the same again. The happy, carefree girl I had been was gone, replaced by someone harder, someone more cautious, someone who had learned a painful lesson about love, trust, and betrayal. The sunshine yellow of my world had been replaced by a cold, unforgiving gray. When I finally returned home, the house felt different, colder. My parents were waiting for me in the living room, their faces etched with concern. But as I soon discovered, their concern wasn't for me. Becky, my mother began, her voice tight. We need to talk. I braced myself. I knew this wouldn't be easy. We've spoken to Tom and Vicky, my father said, his gaze unwavering. They've explained everything. Explained everything? I repeated, my voice rising in disbelief. What is there to explain? I saw them, Mom, Dad. They were holding hands, saying they loved each other. It's not that simple, Becky, my mother said, her voice softening slightly. Vicky says she's loved Tom for a long time, but she never said anything because she didn't want to hurt you. I stared at my parents, dumbfounded. So, you're taking her side? After everything? We're not taking sides, my father said, though his tone suggested otherwise. We just want what's best for everyone. And frankly, Becky, you need to consider Vicky's feelings. This is very difficult for her. Difficult for her? I cried. What about me? I'm the one who was betrayed. I'm the one who lost her fiancé. But you're strong, Becky, my mother said, patting my hand. You'll get over it. Vicky is more sensitive. She needs our support. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents were siding with the sister who had stolen my fiancé, dismissing my pain and invalidating my feelings. So, that's it? I asked, my voice trembling. You're choosing Vicky over me? Their silence was louder than any answer they could have given. I can't believe this, I whispered, my voice cracking as tears welled up in my eyes again. I thought you loved me. We do love you, Becky, my dad said, his voice soft yet strangely distant. Empty. Hollow. I shook my head, unable to bear it anymore. I need to leave, I said, standing before either of them could stop me. I can't stay here. Where will you go? My mom asked, concern etching her brow. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized she still didn't understand. I don't know, I said. But anywhere is better than here. And with that, I walked out. Out of my childhood home. Out of the orbit of people who had once called themselves family. Out of everything I thought I knew about love, about loyalty, about being enough. The weight of abandonment pressed down on me like a stone on my chest. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. And worse? I didn't know if anyone would come looking for me. The sunshine yellow I once surrounded myself with, the color of joy, of memories, of home, had bled into cold, indifferent gray. I found a one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't much, the walls were bare, the furniture mismatched, and the silence swallowed everything. But it was mine. A blank canvas I could rebuild my life on, however slowly. The first few weeks were brutal. I missed my old life. I missed Tom, or maybe just the version of him I thought existed. I missed Vicky before she became a stranger. I missed feeling safe, wanted, whole. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, clutching my pillow like an anchor, wondering if the ache in my chest would ever dull. But day by day, I began to heal. Not in some sweeping cinematic way, but in soft, quiet moments. Choosing to get out of bed. Brushing my hair. Holding on to the idea that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken beyond repair. I threw myself into my work. Teaching had always been my passion, and now it became my lifeline. My students gave me purpose. When I saw their faces light up as they learned something new, when their laughter filled the classroom, a spark lit up inside me. And I began to take care of myself, really take care of myself. I joined a gym. Took long walks in nature. Started journaling again. I rediscovered my love for reading, the way words could transport me somewhere far from pain. I even enrolled in a painting class. The first canvas I completed was a field of muted yellow wildflowers beneath a silver sky, fragile, but still standing. Kind of like me. I surrounded myself with calm, with boundaries, with quiet growth. I stopped answering calls that drained me. I stopped apologizing for saying no. The healing was messy. Some days I still felt like a walking bruise. But I slowly stopped longing for what was lost and started reaching for what could be. The broken version of me gave way to someone stronger, someone who'd stared betrayal in the face and didn't let it define her. One afternoon, while drafting lesson plans, I had an idea. Teachers like me spend hours customizing materials for their classrooms. What if, instead of just making them for my students, I could create lesson plans for other teachers around the country? It started small. I built a simple site and uploaded some of my best resources, interactive notebooks, themed games, writing prompts, reading guides. Hours turned into early mornings and late nights. I designed, tested, uploaded, failed, adjusted. But it felt good, like I was building something real, something that was mine. With every download, I found a little piece of myself again. With every thank you review, I felt my confidence swelling. With every sale, I felt further from who I used to be. Slowly, and then not so slowly, teachers began sharing my work. My emails filled with gratitude. My tiny storefront became a real business. I named it Sunshine Lessons. A nod to what I lost, and to the version of yellow I was reclaiming. I reinvested everything I made into the business, bought a better printer, upgraded my software, hired a part-time assistant. I even taught myself marketing and design. I never told my parents. Never told Vicky. I didn't want their opinions or their apologies. This was mine. Something no one could take from me. The yellow slowly crept back into my world, not loud and beaming like before, but softened, gentler. Hopeful. I started decorating again, a yellow pillow here, a gold-framed photo of my students there. And I bought a new yellow teapot. It didn't whistle like the old one, it sang. Not loudly, just enough to wake the morning gently. While I rebuilt, Vicky moved on with her dream wedding, my dream wedding. I heard snippets from distant relatives and mutual friends. Lavish venue, the family garden I'd imagined walking through in white. Imported flowers. A gown made of silk and lace that probably cost more than my entire apartment. Some part of me wondered if she wore her hair like mine. If Tom stood under that gazebo like he did in my dreams. But instead of crying, I launched a new classroom bundle that same week. Create your own fairy tale, a blend of writing prompts, mythology, and storytelling games. It sold faster than anything I'd made before. When I saw a cousin post wedding photos online, Tom and Vicky beaming under strings of fairy lights in my childhood backyard, I didn't cry. I opened my business dashboard and smiled. 50 new sales. 3 glowing reviews. And 1 message from a new teacher that read, "Your materials saved me this week. Thank you for making our classroom happier." That was my sunshine now. Not a man. Not a wedding. Not a garden laced in lies. My sunshine came from purpose. From work born of healing. From the strength of putting one broken piece after another until I became someone even I could admire. I still don't talk to my family much. But I talk to my students. I talk to other teachers. And most importantly, I talk to myself, kindly, truthfully, lovingly. I never thought I'd rebuild. But I did. And this time, I built a life no one could take from me. That's my yellow now. Not naive. Not borrowed. Just mine. The wedding invitations were printed on thick, creamy cardstock, embossed in gold with Vicky and Tom's names looping together in perfect, elegant script. I didn't receive one, of course. But I didn't need to, I heard about every lavish detail anyway. The menu was catered by a celebrity chef. The cake was 5 tiers tall, draped in fondant and delicately adorned with hand-sculpted sugar roses. It was the kind of wedding people pinned to inspiration boards. The kind I used to dream about long before everything fell apart. I tried to ignore it. I tried to stay focused on my own life, my own healing. But every time someone mentioned their names, their wedding, it felt like a fresh twist of the knife. Not just because of the event itself, but because of the injustice of it all. Vicky wasn't just planning a wedding, she was living my dream life. A life she had stolen. And somehow, everyone was cheering her on. My parents were paying for everything. Every flower, every overpriced canopy, every glowing light in the garden I once loved. They had even taken out a second mortgage on the house. That thought wouldn't leave me. They used to be so careful with money. We grew up clipping coupons and celebrating promotions at home with cake in a box. Now they were throwing caution, and apparently, logic, to the wind for a daughter who had betrayed her own sister. While Vicky basked in the glow of her perfect, stolen life, I was working late nights and early mornings, building something that was mine. Brick by brick, lesson by lesson, upload by upload. No shortcuts. No lies. Just me, working harder than I ever had to build a business born from pain but cultivated with purpose. Still, as the wedding day inched closer, something gnawed at me. A sense of unease, like a thread waiting to be pulled. None of it made sense. Why would my parents risk their financial stability, their home, for this? Something wasn't right. And I was determined to find out the truth. I started quietly, carefully. My parents wouldn't hear me out, not when it came to Vicky. They were still blinded by her sparkle, too enamored with this fantasy she was spinning. I needed more than suspicions. I needed evidence. I reached out to a close family friend who worked at our local bank. I told him I had concerns about my parents' sudden financial decisions, left out the betrayal, the drama, just facts. Cautious, just like they used to be. Now suddenly taking out a loan? It didn't add up. A few days later, he called me back. "Becky," he said, hesitating. "I don't know how to tell you this, but your instincts were right. They had taken out a loan. A large one. Secured against the house. And all of it, every last dollar, had been transferred into an account under Vicky's name. Worse, that account showed several large, unexplained withdrawals. Not even payments to vendors. Cash and private transfers. Thousands unaccounted for. My hands trembled as I hung up the phone. What was she doing with the money? Everything inside me screamed that something was off. So I kept digging. Social media, apps, old emails. And then I found her. A woman I didn't recognize. She had her arm around Tom in every photo she posted. Restaurants, concerts, even a beach trip labeled our weekend getaway. They looked cozy. Intimate. And the worst part? These weren't old memories. They were recent, taken weeks before the wedding. I felt like I was watching a car crash happen in slow motion, but somehow I was the one bleeding. I documented everything. Screenshots. Dates. Backups. I made outlines. Built a case. It wasn't petty, it was justice. My parents were being manipulated. Our family was hanging by a thread. If no one else could see it, I'd make sure they had to. The day before the wedding, I returned to the family home for the first time in months. The garden barely resembled the one from my childhood. It had been transformed into a wedding fantasy, string lights woven through arches, white chairs arranged in perfect rows, lavender wafting through the air. All I could think of was how far they'd gone for her. I found Vicky in the guest room turned bridal suite, surrounded by white satin, lace, and our mother. She turned when she heard the door creak. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp and defensive. "I have something to show you," I said quietly, pulling the USB drive from my purse. My hand didn't shake. I was past that. I walked over to the TV and plugged it in. The slideshow began. Bank statements first. Line after line tracing the flow of money from our parents' account right to hers. Then, the unexplained withdrawals. Our mother gasped. "What is this?" "Vicky, is this true?" "It's the truth," I said calmly. "You were manipulated into taking out a loan. You risked your home, your future, for this." I gestured toward the designer dress, the glittering tiara still resting in its silk box. My dad stepped forward. Silent. Pale. The next round of slides? The photos. Tom wrapped around that mystery woman. Beaches, dinners, laughing in dimly lit lounges. "That's not true," Vicky cried. "You faked those. You." "They're time-stamped, Vicky," I cut in. "Look at the dates. That's 2 weeks ago. While you were planning your bachelorette party, he was on vacation. With her." Right on cue, Tom walked in. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to read the room. And then he saw the screen. He didn't deny it. He didn't have to. His face said it all. I turned to my parents. "This is who you've been defending. This is who you were willing to sacrifice me for." The room fell into stifled silence. Even the colors seemed to go dull. The wedding was canceled the next day. Vendors were paid off, some partially, some in full. Guests were told it was a private family emergency. The fairy tale was dismantled piece by piece until nothing was left except hurt, debt, and cold, unrelenting reality. The truth unraveled fast. Vicky denied it all at first. Then cried. Then finally admitted what she did. The money was gone, most of it used to fund her lifestyle, not the wedding. Designer clothes. lavish dinners. That beach trip. Tom left that same afternoon. Suitcase in hand. No goodbyes. Just gone. My parents were shattered, not just by financial loss, but by the betrayal of their youngest child. They tried to confront Vicky. They begged her for answers. Apologies. Solutions. She had none. They had no choice but to sell assets, scale back their life, and privately pay off the loan they'd taken out in good faith. Her reputation tanked. Word got around. Everyone knew. She lost her job. She stopped getting invited anywhere. What support she had melted away. At first, my parents blamed me. You could have handled this differently, my mom had said. You humiliated her, my father mumbled. But time peeled their anger back. Eventually, they saw the truth. I hadn't ruined the wedding. I had saved them. Weeks passed. Then, quietly, my phone rang one evening. "We're sorry," my dad said. "For everything. For choosing the wrong daughter. For not listening. For letting you carry this alone." They invited me over. We talked. 4 hours. About everything. It didn't fix everything. Not overnight. But it started something. A rebuilding. This time not based on illusion, but on truth. On mutual respect. On choosing to show up for one another. I'm not sure if I'd call it sunshine yellow just yet. But the gray has softened. There's a glow now. Warm, honest, and quietly healing. My business? It's thriving. I hired a team. Started offering workshops. Teachers across the country message me almost daily, thanking me for helping them stay afloat in a broken system. I tell them, when your passion anchors you, you can survive any storm. I've made peace with a lot. With what I lost. With what I gained. With who I am becoming. And as I sip tea from my yellow teapot each morning, the one with the newer, stronger whistle, I remind myself. This version of my life may not have started from love. But it is built on truth, grit, and light I found within. And that? No one can take from me. I had built a successful business from the ground up, repaired the fractured relationship with my parents, and created a life that was rich with purpose and joy. And for once, it wasn't measured against anyone else. It wasn't defined by my relationship with Tom or by the weight of my family's expectations. I was no longer someone's fiancé. Or someone's forgotten daughter. I was Becky. A successful entrepreneur. A passionate teacher. A woman who had fought through heartbreak and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and incredibly whole. I had learned, slowly and painfully, to trust myself again. My instincts. My decisions. To make choices that aligned with my values. I stopped seeking anyone's validation. I stopped trying to prove my worth to people who didn't appreciate it. And for the first time in my life, I believed in me. The kind of belief that doesn't waver just because someone walks away. I found joy not in grand love stories or a picture-perfect life, but in authentic, meaningful moments. In early mornings with coffee and my yellow teapot. In seeing my students' eyes light up when they grasp a new concept. In sitting under a foreign sky 1,000 miles from home and realizing that I brought myself here and I wasn't running anymore. I didn't need a man to complete me. I was already whole. I was already enough. I embraced that freedom like a passport to the life I never knew I needed. I traveled the world, explored new cultures, met incredible people, and learned that living boldly means stepping outside the lines of the life you once thought you had to live. The sunshine yellow in my world didn't just return. It blazed. Brighter than ever. A color reborn not just from hope, but from pain, from grit, from the fire of having stood in the darkest places and choosing not to stay there. I hadn't gotten revenge. I hadn't begged. I hadn't sunk to anger. I had simply rebuilt. Quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. And in doing so, I had taken my power back. Meanwhile, Vicky's life unraveled in the exact way mine once did, except she had no one to blame but herself. She lost it all: Tom, her social circle, our parents' trust. Her reputation was in ruins, and with so much going public, employers hesitated to hire her. Even the charm and confidence she'd always coasted on couldn't save her from the harsh reality of the choices she had made. She moved into a cramped, sad little apartment across town. No one called. No one visited. Her friends faded the same way mine did, back when I became the scandal. But the difference? I hadn't lied my way there. She tried reaching out, once, twice, and then more cautiously. I ignored the first few messages. I wasn't sure I was ready. I wasn't sure I wanted to be ready. But a part of me still wondered, did she regret it? Truly? Or was this just another performance? Then one day, I saw her. At a coffee shop I went to often. She looked small. Faded. Not the Vicky I had known, not the spotlight-stealing sister in designer heels. Just a woman wrestling with consequences. "Becky," she said. Her voice cracked. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I hesitated. Years of pain, of silence, of swallowing things that didn't sit right with me, years compressed into a single breath. But then, I nodded. She sat across from me and poured her heart out on that table like it weighed more than she could carry. She admitted she had been wrong, selfish, envious, impulsive. She didn't excuse anything. She just told the truth. She didn't ask me to forgive her. She just wanted me to know she was sorry. And for the first time, I believed her. I waited for her to finish. Then I said, "I can't forget what you did, Vicky. You broke something that took me a long time to put back together. But I also know that holding on to this anger, it only hurts me. I don't know if I can fully forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I can let it go. I can move forward." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "That's all I wanted to hear," she whispered. I gave her a faint smile. "I hope you find peace, Vicky. But you'll need to earn it. You'll have to prove, not to me, to yourself that you're capable of building something better than what you destroyed." She nodded, and this time, I saw something in her that surprised me. Resolve. Years passed. My business soared, reaching teachers all over the globe. I wrote books about education and resilience and building meaningful teaching practices. I was invited to speak at conferences, mentor young educators, and serve on national boards that shaped the future of classrooms. I bought a house, my own house, with big sunny windows and rooms filled with soft, golden light. Sunshine yellow accents found their way into every corner. My favorite color had never left me, it had simply evolved, brighter, deeper, earned. I still traveled. Said yes to new adventures. Dated here and there, but I never settled, and didn't feel an ounce of guilt for it. I was happy. Genuinely happy. And that happiness wasn't fragile anymore. It was rooted in something unshakable. My relationship with my parents healed, little by little. They were proud of me, of everything I had accomplished, and they never stopped trying to show me that. We laughed together again. Had dinners. Spent holidays in our new rhythm, one built on honesty. Even Vicky re-entered the picture in small, cautious doses. She'd found work again, at a local library of all places. It suited her, surprisingly. Quiet. Structured. Humble. She was far from where she had once stood, but she was steadying herself, step by step. We weren't close, and maybe we never would be. But we spoke. Sometimes we hugged. Sometimes we exchanged quick smiles. And for now, that was enough. I learned something I once thought I never would. Betrayal can burn your world down. But it also clears the path. Adversity can break you. But it can also reshape you. Forgiveness? It doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing yourself over the weight of what hurt you. I had taken back everything that had been stolen from me. Not through revenge. Not through anger. But through love. For myself. For the people who finally saw me. For the life I had climbed out of the ashes to create. Now, my sunshine yellow doesn't just glow, it radiates. And every time I wake up in my sunlit home, brew tea in my favorite yellow teapot, speak to a room full of passionate educators, or watch a child overcome a learning struggle, I remember. I survived. I thrived. I turned a heartbreak into a legacy. And that legacy? It will shine long after the storm has passed. Thank you for spending your time with my story. Feel free to share your thoughts or reactions in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.